Starting off part 2 of the spreadsheet with the first part of the analysis, let's do the birds. Now, the birds were actually the least mentioned animals on here. There's only, out of the 551 animals mentioned, there was only 37 birds, which means out of all 27 lists, birds only make up 7% out of all of the animals mentioned. Now, like I said, there was a total of 37 bird mentions across all of the articles, making up 20 different species types. So there were 37 mentions of birds, but only 20 of them were unique species. And of those unique species, there was 13 species that were unrepeated, that only appeared once after all of the articles. And that's actually the highest percentage of repeats across all 5 categories. That is a 65% of the species in the birds category were only mentioned once, whereas only 35% of the birds mentioned were repeated at least twice across every single article. So birds have the lowest number of mentions and the lowest percent all over, but they do have the highest percentage of unique species that were unrepeated across all of the articles. So now we have our top appearances. On our top most repeated bird, we have the shoebill, which had 6 appearances across all 27 articles. So 6 out of the 37 bird mentions were the shoebill. Up next, we have a tie, actually, between the superb bird of paradise and the Amazonian flycatcher, both with 4 appearances out of the 37 bird appearances. So up together, they make out 8 appearances total between the two of them, with 4 appearances each. Rounding out third, we have another tie between the lyrebird and the magnificent frigatebird, both of which made 3 appearances across all 27 articles. And lastly, we do have another tie, actually, between the frogmouth and the marabou stork, both of which made 2 appearances across all of the articles. Now, I was not surprised by the prevalence of the shoebill. Once people learn about them, they tend to blow up everywhere because they look like an actual dinosaur. I was a little bit surprised by the lyrebird's prevalence on these lists, but I think it's because they are actually really good mimics, so that's why they were mentioned so many times, due to their mimicking ability. I was surprised that the marabou wasn't quite as high up on the list. It only had 2 mentioned. I would have expected it to be a little bit higher. And an honorable mention and another surprise, the hoatzin. I was expecting the hoatzin to be way higher on this because this is a weird fucking bird, okay? It deserved way more mentions than the 1 mention in 1 article that it got. This is a weird bird, and it should be higher. Overall, I think this dataset just really shows that the birds are very underrepresented in this, and that can also be seen in the fact that there's so many unrepeated birds, because there's so many weird birds, but nobody puts them on their list. So unrepresented, but the ones that are pretty cool on here, and they deserve more recognition.